This is the video retake for creating probability outcome tables and trees. If you are watching this video and you haven't watched the original, please stop and go back and make sure you watch the original video first. For problem 1, you can't decide what to wear for tomorrow. You have 3 shirt options, red, white, and blue. You have 2 sock options, red and black. And you have 2 hat options, purple and orange. How many total options are there, and what are the odds that you wear an orange hat? So step 1 is always make the outcome tree. So for step 1, we have 3 options. We have red, white, and blue for our hats. So that is step 1. Step 2 is we have 2 sock options off each of these, okay? So sock option 1 is red, sock option 2 is black. We're going to do BL here. Okay, so red and black, and then red and black. Option 3 is then 2 hat options, purple and orange. So off each of these, we have purple and we have orange. Purple and orange, purple and orange, purple and orange, purple and orange, purple and orange. So our total options are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 total options. And the shortcut for this would be you take the number of options in each event and you multiply it. So we had 3 options in event 1, 2 options in event 2, 2 options in event 3, which is equal to 12, which should be our answer. So now it says, what are the odds that you wear an orange hat? So we know that there are 12 total possibilities here because we just calculated that above. And we need to know how many of the 12 possibilities have an orange hat. Now you could do the last step we just worked on. You could turn that into, you could turn that into an outcome table, and you could write it down here at the bottom. You could do red, red, purple, red, 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 orange. We could do that for all 12 options. Or you can go down to the 3rd level and you can count the number of options that have orange in it, which is 6. Therefore, 6 out of 12 is the same as 1 out of 2, or 1/2, which is, what are the odds? It's 50% that you wear an orange hat, which makes sense because there's only 2 hats. So you got to be wearing either a purple hat or you got to be wearing an orange hat. Those are really the only 2 options. That is the outcome tree here on the right. We started to make the outcome table. Sometimes the outcome table is very helpful. Sometimes it's actually very confusing. And in this case, I didn't write it out because we had so many colors that overlapped. It can become kind of a pain in the butt to get that correct. So we're going to do one more problem, and then we're going to let you start working on some of your own examples. Our last question is going to be covering flipping a coin 4 times. Now we flipped a coin 2 times, we flipped a coin 3 times. Now we're going to flip a coin 4 separate times, and we're going to create the outcome tree and the outcome table for it. So, 4. So part 1 is we have either heads or we have tails. Okay, that's the first step. Step 2 is we once again have heads and we have tails each time. Heads and then tails. Step 3 is we once again have heads and then tails. We're going to try to keep it nice and spaced out here because we are going to have 16 total possibilities here. So we're going to try to erase this one. So this is where outcome trees get very messy, and it's why outcome tables can sometimes be more beneficial, because the last step here is going to look real ugly. So we have heads and then tails again, heads and then tails again, heads and then tails, 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 heads and then tails. So the last problem told us basically like the tree was way better in that problem. This time, the outcome table is going to be substantially better than the tree for reading. So I'm just going to go down each of these options. So this is 1, this is 2, this is 3, and I'm going to write them out. So option 1 was heads, 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 heads. Option 2 was heads, 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 tails. Then option 3 is heads, heads, tails, heads. And then heads, heads, tails, tails. Option 4. So that was 4. This is 5. So that was heads, tails, heads. Oops, we're kind of losing it here. Heads, tails. We're going to erase that and try again. So heads, tails, head. We're at 5. Yep. So heads, 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 heads. And then we had heads, tails, heads, tails. So I'm going to mark these 6 off. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay. The next one is heads, tails, tails again, and then heads. And finally heads, tails, tails, tails. See how messy this gets after a while? So I'm going to try to go fast for the last few, but it is very easy to get messed up on these problems. So we got to be super duper careful. Tails, heads, heads, heads when you're making the outcome table. So this is going to hopefully show you why eventually we want to find a faster method for these problems. Tails, heads, tails, heads. Tails, heads, tails, tails. Okay, so 2 more done. So now we have tails, tails. Heads, heads. Whew, almost done. Tails, tails. Heads, tails. It's these 2. Last one. Tails, 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 heads. Whoops. Oops, I messed that one up. Tails, 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 heads. Sorry. And then finally, tails, 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 tails. What a mess, huh? So what are the odds you get at least 3 heads? So we need to mark how many of these 16 options had 3 or more heads. So that would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And that's what I see. So there are 5 options that had 3 heads or more. Make sure I got that right. Yep, I see 3 heads or more only for 5 of the options, okay? So that means that if we do that on a calculator, whoops, I almost dropped my phone there. That'd been sad. 5 out of 16 is about 31%. So if you noticed in this problem, the outcome tree and the outcome table became very messy and difficult to work with. Therefore, we're going to teach you how to do these methods to help you in P3. But the goal here is to eventually move to the strategy in P4 to show you some of the shortcuts for this method without having to write out that whole tree. And I look forward to seeing you in that video. As always, if you have any questions, please let me know.